Sometimes, the smallest voice can reveal the biggest truth. On a quiet morning in Ouagadougou, a young homeless girl unknowingly changed the course of a nation's leadership. She had nothing, no home, no shoes, not even hope. But with one brave question, she made the most powerful man in the country stop, think, and act. This is the heart-touching story of how President Ibrahim Traoré discovered wisdom in the words of a child and exposed corruption hidden in plain sight. It was a cool morning in Ouagadougou. President Ibrahim Traoré had just finished a long meeting about national security. His convoy was heading to a public event when he suddenly told the driver to change the route. "Let's go through the old cemetery road," he said quietly. His guards were surprised but followed his command. As they passed the graveyard, the president noticed a young girl sitting alone beside a grave. She looked about 9 years old. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy, and she had no shoes. But what caught his attention were her eyes, sad yet full of courage. "Stop the car," the president said. The guards were confused. One of them warned, "Sir, this area is unsafe." I said stop. The car stopped. The president stepped out and slowly walked toward the girl. His guards followed, alert. The girl didn't move. She was cleaning the grave with a torn piece of cloth and softly speaking to it. "Who are you visiting?" the president asked gently. The girl looked up. Her face was dusty, but her eyes were sharp. "My parents," she replied. "Where do you live?" "I don't have a home. I sleep here beside them." Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry. "What's your name?" "Divine." The president knelt beside her and read the tombstone. It said, The president felt deep sadness. He turned to his guard. "Call the social welfare department. I want this girl in my care today." "Sir, what if she's dangerous?" his assistant asked. "She's just a child. And she's been through enough. From now on, she's mine." That night, Divine had a warm meal and slept in a clean bed inside the presidential palace. For the first time in years, she felt safe. Living in the palace was strange for Divine. She had never seen shiny floors or people wearing uniforms calling each other sir and madam. At first, she stayed quiet. But slowly, she began to smile again. President Ibrahim treated her like his own daughter. He made sure she had everything: a soft bed, new clothes, healthy meals, and lessons from a kind tutor. One morning, Divine sat in the palace garden doing homework. She heard voices from a window nearby. She looked up and saw the president in his office with a tall man in glasses, his assistant, Mr. Gerard. Gerard held a folder full of documents. "Sir, these need your signature." The president, typing on his laptop, said, "Put them down. I'll sign them now." Without reading, he signed each paper one by one. Divine watched silently. The same thing happened the next day and the day after. That evening, Divine entered the president's office. "Mr. President," she said softly. He smiled. "Divine, how many times must I tell you to call me Papa?" She smiled back. "Papa? Can I ask something?" "Of course. Why don't you read the papers before signing them?" He paused. "Because I trust the people who prepare them. I have a lot of work, and reading all the papers would take too long. But what if someone hides something bad in them?" He laughed lightly. "You've been watching too many cartoons." "No, Papa. I'm serious. Even my teacher says we should always read before signing anything." The president looked at her. Her face was innocent, but her words were wise. "You're right," he said. "But these are government files. My assistant checks everything. But what if the assistant is doing something wrong?" That night, he couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. What if the assistant is doing something wrong? The next morning, when Gerard brought the usual documents, the president said, "Sit down. Today, we'll go through each paper together." "All of them?" Gerard asked nervously. "Yes." As they reviewed the papers, the president noticed something strange. One file asked to transfer 3 billion CFA francs to a private company. But the address was fake. The director's name on the paper had already resigned months ago. "Who added this file?" the president asked. "It was a mistake," Gerard mumbled. "No, Gerard. This is not a mistake. This is betrayal. That afternoon, President Ibrahim ordered a full investigation into every document he had signed in the past 3 months. More fake transactions were discovered. Millions had been stolen quietly under the president's nose, and every one of those documents had passed through Gerard's hands. That evening, Gerard was arrested. The news shocked the entire nation. For months, people had complained about missing funds, unpaid workers, and slow development projects. Now, they finally understood why. At a press conference, President Ibrahim spoke honestly. I take full responsibility for trusting too much and reading too little. But the person who opened my eyes is someone small, someone many would ignore. He turned to Divine, who stood shyly beside him. This young girl taught me to think again. From now on, I will read every file before I sign. And today, I'm appointing Divine as my special advisor because wisdom has no age. The room went silent, then burst into applause. A reporter asked, "Sir, are you serious?" "I am very serious," said the president. "She may be young, but she sees what many of us miss." Divine was stunned. "Me? But I don't know anything about government." "You know how to think." "That's a good start," the president said with a smile. From that day on, Divine sat in meetings, listened carefully, and asked questions when something didn't feel right. Ministers were surprised at first, but soon they respected her courage. Behind the scenes, some people began to complain. "She's just a child. What does she know?" But President Ibrahim stood firm. If a 9-year-old girl can see what adults ignore, then it's time we listen more to children. The palace begins to change. After Divine became the president's special advisor, things inside the palace began to shift. Ministers who used to bring files without explanation now had to give full details. Lazy government workers were forced to become active. Even senior advisors began to fear her, not because she shouted or punished. The threat begins. Some corrupt officials grumbled. "This little girl is becoming a problem. Before, we used to collect money easily. Now she blocks everything." One evening, Divine walked to the palace garden to read. A man in a staff uniform followed her, but he had never worked in the palace before. Just as he got closer, a sharp voice shouted, "Stop there." It was a guard. He caught the man. After interrogation, the truth came out. The man had been sent by a powerful official whom Divine had unknowingly exposed for illegal building contracts. A storm of rumors and lies. The palace was in chaos. The president was furious and increased Divine's security. But soon, the attacks became more dangerous. Whispers began to spread. "She's a ghost child. She doesn't laugh or play like others. She's too wise. Maybe she's not human." One night, a fake letter arrived at the president's desk. It claimed that Divine was a foreign spy sent to destroy the government. As he read it, Divine entered with a cup of tea. "Papa, your tea is ready." She saw the paper in his hand and asked, "Is that about me?" "Yes," he said quietly. "Do you believe it?" she asked. He looked at her for a long time. "Divine, you came to me with nothing but truth. You didn't even know who I was. But since the day you entered my life, this palace has become better. I don't believe them, and I never will." Tears filled Divine's eyes. She had never felt such love, not even when her parents were alive. Enemies within. But not everyone was happy with the president's faith in Divine. Some corrupt officials began meeting in secret. "If we don't get rid of her, our plans will fail. She's already correcting policies. Soon she'll know all our secrets." They talked of poisoning or kidnapping her. But none of their plans worked because President Ibrahim had assigned his most loyal guards to protect her day and night. A childhood friend turns enemy. One hot afternoon, Emmanuel, the president's childhood friend, visited. "Brother," he said, walking into the office. "That girl? Divine. This is madness. How can a child be your advisor? Are you under a spell?" President Ibrahim's face turned cold. "Watch your words." "No, I won't. She's dangerous. Let me take you to a prophet." The president stared in disbelief. "You, Emmanuel, who once believed in miracles, are now speaking like a fool." "You'll regret this," Emmanuel said as he stormed out. That night, Emmanuel met secretly with the same corrupt official. "That girl has turned him against me. Me, his childhood friend." The official nodded. Then let's remove them both. No more divine. No more president. Emmanuel hesitated, but his pride burned. I'm in, he whispered. A deadly plot foiled. They hired two strangers to poison the tea that Divine usually brought to the president. That same night, Divine had forgotten her drawing book and went to retrieve it, only to see two strangers crawling in the garden. She screamed. Guards rushed in, caught the men, and after interrogation, they confessed Emmanuel and a senior official had sent them. The president was heartbroken. Emmanuel, he whispered. You saved my life again, he told Divine, holding her hand. Justice and truth win. Emmanuel and the official were arrested. The people were shocked. Jealousy had turned a childhood friend into an enemy. During a national address, President Ibrahim said, "Not everyone who smiles with you is your friend. Sometimes your greatest enemy wears the face of your closest companion." He held Divine's hand. This little girl has faced more attacks than most grown men, but she stands strong. Not for power, not for money, but for truth. The crowd cheered. From today, anyone who threatens her threatens me. She is no longer just my advisor. She is my family. That evening, Divine sat by her window and whispered to the stars. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa. I'm safe. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. She was brave. She was wise. And her name had become a symbol of light in a world full of darkness. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we post a new video. Thank you for watching.